And this week on Mud, Sweat and Gears, we focus on the recent PMC National Rally. And lost when the South African Rally Brigade converged on Pretoria for the final round of the MSA South African Rally Championship. The Pretoria Motor Club headquarters in Silverton were a hive of activity, but with so much at stake for many teams and crews, a festive atmosphere carried undertones of tension and expectancy. Going into the final round, Toyota factory driver Serge Damso needed only a 6th place to clinch his 8th SA Drivers' Championship, and there were 3 contenders to take the Co-Drivers' Championship. For Serge Damso and the Toyota dealer team, history was there for the taking, and there was huge pressure on all concerned.
Yeah, there's a lot of pressure that we must just make sure that we get to the end of this rally and we just have a clean run and no mechanical problem and not going off the road.
We're under heavy pressure here. We just have to make sure the car gets to the finish, even if we have to carry the car to the finish. That's what we'll do.
Another Toyota team was also in the news after completely destroying their team Total Toyota Corolla on the Cape Rally. Championship frontrunners Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley entered the PMC event in a Toyota Conquest borrowed from a friend.
Toyota decided that we shouldn't build a new car for the last event, obviously because of budget constraints and things like that. I then went to a friend of mine and said, "Can I borrow your car?" You know, with a reputation of just crashing mine into oblivion. You know, he looked at me like this and he said, "Yeah, sure, no problem." So Jaco Venter from Venter Motors in Trichot, I think it's fantastic of them to actually lend it to me. I took a bit of preparation for the last week or so, but it's here, and well, we'll see how it goes.
There was also tension in the overall Group N Championship, where the title race was a straight fight between Toyota crew Dean Sanders and Graham Hooper and the Nissan pair of Hannah Scrobler and Brian Duncan. After taking into account compulsory dropped points over the season, only 3 points separated the Toyota and Nissan crews, providing the PMC Rally with another pressure point.
We basically 3 points behind us if we drop our Cape Town event. And so we've got to beat him by 1 place or try. We've got nothing to lose. We won the Group N2 championship already, so we're going to be going flat out. See what we can do. The only thing I've got to lose is my car. That's it.
If we can beat him on this event, then we win the championship. So it's not all over. It's going to go to the wire, and the stress is there. And I think the younger guys did a very good job this year by chasing us.
Well, the starts of national championship rallies don't normally provide for drama, but the PMC rally was a little different. Local dignitaries officiating at the start of national events is now standard procedure, but there was an embarrassing start to proceedings for reigning SA champions Jan Habak and Douglas Judd. A slight miscalculation saw the Sasol VW Golf 4 slip off the start ramp. A little muscle power was needed to sort out the situation, and fortunately there was no damage to the car. Apart from a few minor scratches and red faces for the crew, Habak and Judd were soon on their way. Championship leader Serge Damso was not taking any chances of having the dealer team Toyota Corolla suffer the same fate. Damso had a careful look at the start ramp with a helpful bystander directing the Toyota crew on their way. Damso and Guy Hodgson, involved in a straight fight with Doug Judd for the Co-Drivers' Championship, were seen off by a contingent of Toyota supporters and were followed off the start ramp by a relaxed Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the borrowed Toyota Conquest. For reigning SA Drivers' champion Jan Habak, nothing but a win on the PMC would suffice if he was to pick up a 3rd successive title. Doug Judd was in a slightly different position, though, in his co-driver scrap with Guy Hodgson. Because Hodgson missed the opening event of the season in KwaZulu-Natal, Judd needed only 7 points to wrap up his 3rd title. It was a case of driver versus driver and co-driver versus co-driver, but a non-finish for either crew would end all title aspirations. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were virtually out of the title picture, as were Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding. For the crew of the 2nd Sasol VW Golf in Class A8, their primary job was to make sure they finished ahead of Damso and Hodgson. Back in action after a 4-month layoff were former Class A6 champions Helgen Feckert and Dave Lukowitz, with an interesting tussle expected between the Pretoria pair and Jean-Pierre Damso and Johan Klaassen in the team Total Toyota Corolla. The fact that the 2 Toyotas were likely to clash head-on with a 3rd Sasol VW Golf, driven by Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows, added spice to the proceedings. On the Class A7 front, Nissan Sentra pair Johnny Gemmell and Errol Finnis were out of the championship picture, but would lock horns with newly crowned champions Tony Ball and Marty Olafia in the Bulwer Park VW Golf. Also back in action after a major accident on the Sasol Rally was the top car BMW. The spectacular Beamer was now crewed by KwaZulu-Natalians Cliff Blackman and Alec Harris. Behind them, the Group N battle between Hannes Krobler and Brian Duncan in the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra, and Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper in the Team Total Toyota Corolla was quickly in full swing. Both teams had no option but to come out with guns blazing, with the Nissan crew establishing a slight early advantage. Both crews were being chased by Quibus Roos and Neil Faree in the Toyota Corolla, and Ken Vestermeyer and Gerrit Sneeman in a VW Player that was running in Class A7. Up at the first service point, matters weren't going quite according to plan for Jan Habak and Doug Judd. Damso and Hodgson were not going to be a threat at the front of the field, but an overheating problem forced Habak and Judd to slow down their pace, and it was Sasol VW teammates Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding who grabbed the early lead.
Johnny, heat's a bit of a problem?
Yeah, we went through some growth there and it blocked the radiator in the front, so for the last 15 k's the temperatures were very high in the car, and we were just trying to nurse it to the end just in case we damaged the engine, because we got a bit of time to play with, so we decided to rather be a bit cautious.
There were also early woes for Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley in the borrowed Toyota Conquest running under the Team Total banner. They limped into the service area, and with the hastily prepared Conquest suffering from mechanical and overheating problems, Lawrence wasn't his usual cheerful self.
No, it's been cutting, it's cutting out, and then I've also got a major oil leak on the clutch. So we'll have to change that at the 2.5 hour service if I can get there, but now I've got overheating problems.
After a disappointing season in the second Class A8 Sasol VW, multiple former Class A7 champions Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding finally had something to smile about, with Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the same boat.
Yeah, I mean, after the last rally, which we only did 1 kilometer, I mean, we got the act together today. The car is fine, so we had a very good stage. It didn't feel that good, but when we came out, the times were excellent. I think we're leading by about 4 seconds. But I mean, we'll have to see. It's still a long way to go.
We had a 4-month layoff since the Sasol. We haven't really done anything. And we're lying third overall at this stage. We had the first stage was cancelled. The second stage we had the second quickest time, just behind Abig. So we're going pretty well. I'm very happy. Thanks to my new sponsor Motorpix and Toyota, we're back.
There was plenty of activity around the top car BMW, with the PMC an emotional event for the team. Regular driver Doug Kemsley and co-driver Steve Krobler was seriously hurt in the Sasol Rally accident, which left Krobler paralysed. With the fully repaired Beamer crewed by Cliff Blackman and Alec Harris, a cheerful Krobler was out in his wheelchair to give the squad moral support. There was also plenty of action around the Adrian Karth Dolph Coetzee VW Golf, with technical crew busy with a quick gearbox change.
Now the gearbox is gone. Stiff. It's quite wet there. But it's ready, it's better than working.
Were building up in the Bronkhorstspruit area towards the end of day one, but at the front of the field, matters were now back to normal. Jan Habak and Doug Judd were back in the lead in the Sasol VW Golf 4, but pushing hard, and by contrast, the dealer Team Toyota pair of Serge Damso and Guy Hodgson looked as though they were on a casual Sunday drive, with Damso only needing 6th overall and 3rd in class to win the Drivers' Championship. There was never any doubt the Toyota pair were going to carefully monitor the pace, and were quite happy to let the two Sasol Golfs get away from them. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were in trouble in the Toyota Conquest and were rapidly losing ground, but behind the pair, Van der Walt and Harding were still on a charge in the second Sasol VW Golf. Hergen Fecken and Dave Lukowitz in the Motorpix Toyota Corolla were on home ground and taking full advantage of the fact. The battle between Fecken and Lukowitz and former Class A6 Drivers' Champion Jean-Pierre Damso, who's the son of Serge, and Johan Claassen in the Team Total Toyota Corolla was turning into an intriguing contest. On the Group N front, Hannes Krobler and Brian Duncan in the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra were just where they needed to be, and that was ahead of championship challengers Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper. Sandwiched between the warring Group N teams were Barry Krobler and Mike Burrows in a 3rd Class A8 Sasol Golf, and a big fight in Class A7. Johnny Gemmell and Errol Finnis in the Nissan Sentra were locking horns with the Bulwer Park VW Golf in the hands of Class A7 champions-elect Tony Ball and Marty Olafia. When Gemmell and Finnis rolled on stage 6, the balance of power shifted to the VW camp. Class N2 champions Dean Saunders and Graham Hooper had done a good job of shadowing Group N leaders Hannes Krobler and Brian Duncan. A puncture on special stage 6 cost them time, but they were still in touch with the Bridgestone Nissan Sentra. Behind them, veterans Jeff Mortimer and Jerry Haddocker ran into early problems in the Sasol Nissan Sentra, but were gradually fighting their way back. The Toyota Corolla of Cobus Roos and Neil Ferree was running strongly, and the pair were only a handful of seconds behind the Sanders Hooper car. And in the gathering gloom, an interesting battle was going on at the front of Class N1. On the road, Mike Houghton and Brian Doherty in the Toy Spares Toyota Taz were ahead of champions-elect Rodney Versace and Carolyn Swan in the team Total Taz, with only seconds separating the two cars.
Yeah, luckily it was a short stage. It was about 5 k's long, and about halfway in the stage we got a puncture, and we lost about 4 or 5 seconds there, so it's not that bad.
Prior to the last 2 special stages of the day, on the outskirts of Bronkhorstspruit, there was a lengthy 2.5-hour service break. Technical crew were busy fitting rally lights to cars, and drivers and co-drivers had time to reflect on progress so far.
We've been pushing a bit overboard, I think. We've lost a bit of time through stupid mistakes. A little bit of a wrong slot off the road, so we had to reverse and get back on again. Lost about 10 seconds there, but otherwise it's close enough. It's closer than it's been, I think.
Johnny Kimmel was ahead of us up to this last stage by about 35 seconds, and he rolled and lost a minute, so now we're ahead. But we're concentrating on the war, not the battle. We've got a championship just to tie up here.
So what did you do? What did we?
Yeah, we came round a left-hander and got onto the straight, built up a bit of speed, and the front left wheels got onto the ploughed ground. And we went further and further, and then the car broadsided onto the mealy lands, and we went over. But it's not too bad. We've got a windscreen coming, so we should be in for the rest of the rally, hopefully.
The weather was starting to turn nasty with high winds and mini dust storms sweeping across the service area, and it was just a matter of time before the heavens opened. They did so in a big way, in time to ruin what Bronkhorstspruit civic officials planned on turning into a gala occasion. The downpour also produced treacherous conditions.
600.
Race cam action is from the Jan Habak Doug Judd Sasol VW Golf, with the South African champions and rally leaders among the crews to get a wake-up call. Habak and Judd almost found themselves going off the road in miserable conditions that sent the few spectators who braved the storm scurrying for whatever shelter they could find. Etienne Lawrence and Robert Paisley were now back among the midfield runners in the team Total Toyota Conquest, while Chart van der Walt and Cindy Harding were less than 20 seconds behind teammates Habak and Judd in second place. Race cam action here is from the Hergen Feck and Dave Lukovitz Motorpix Toyota Corolla, and they almost came to grief when the car aquaplaned off the road. That cost them 40 seconds, and it wasn't much fun for hardy spectators or crews. The Feck and Lukovitz incident saw rival Toyota pair Jean-Pierre Damso and Johan Klaassen move ahead of the Motorpix car, and even a hugely experienced crew like Hannes Krobler and Brian Duncan were not exempt from near disaster in the treacherous conditions. Of the PMC Rally, and in the leading Sasol VW Golf, a little early dissension between Jan Habak and Doug Judd over which route they should follow.
Right. Forklift, straight on. Straight on.
No, it's up here.
No, it's not.
Well, the arrows go this way, Douglas. That thing is wrong. And the tracks are up here. 17.6.
Yeah, okay.
Well, it happens in the best of families. Crews were back in the Bronkhorstspruit and Witbank areas on day 2, and after the deluge in the area the night before, conditions in what were predominantly Milliefield special stages were not going to be easy.